We have some more information on how the development of Perfect Dark is going, and Volition, who just recently released Saints Row, is now being integrated into Gearbox. So as we know, the next Perfect Dark is going to be a game very highly anticipated. One of those games that I think Xbox has to deliver on. It's a reboot of the franchise. It already has a big fan base, and it's one of those games that they can take and give that just amazing experience for the Xbox console, similar to something that we have just gotten with God of War Ragnarok. And with Perfect Dark, it's coming from the new development studio, The Initiative from Xbox, but they're also working with Crystal Dynamics. Now we have some more information on just how well that is actually going. So Crystal Dynamics is claiming that Perfect Dark development is going extremely well. As we know, Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, they were all bought up by the Embracer Group just a while back for an extremely low $300 million. And then later on, Square Enix Montreal closed down and they transferred some of those employees to the other studios. But now we are here with Crystal Dynamics working on Perfect Dark with Daryl Gallagher, the head of the initiative, previously at Crystal Dynamics, so he had a great relationship. So it's kind of a match made in heaven if you're going to branch out to another studio to work full-time on helping make this game. And now we have some information here, and this is according to Crystal Dynamics and Eidos' CEO, Phil Rogers. He has this to say: "We're working on the iconic Perfect Dark game, and the project is going extremely well. What's been so promising internally is seeing how our team took on this opportunity, a new way of working. If we think about the future of how we work, collaboration across studios, across time zones, across geographies, across different companies will all become more common. So it is great to see the team at the initiative and our team across Crystal Studios working so well together." And if you remember, when everything came out, people were freaking out because people were thinking that the initiative just wasn't capable enough to actually make this game itself. And the initiative, being that new studio, they had to branch out. They had to figure out exactly how they were going to run the studio and then how they were going to continue to work on Perfect Dark. And when they announced the partnership with Crystal Dynamics, I wasn't really worried. I thought it was a very normal thing, and I thought it was actually a good thing, because Crystal Dynamics has a great pedigree. You look at the Tomb Raider stuff, but on top of that, it was Daryl Gallagher choosing the direction that they wanted this game to go. And eventually you have to do that. You can't just continuously take ideas after idea and then continuously discuss in circles as to what you want within this video game. You have to take the ideas and then, to your best ability, choose where you want the game to go. And I think that was the point where they made that decision and they decided to go and partner up with Crystal Dynamics. Matt Booty talked about this during PAX West a while ago. He says, "So we just did this big partnership with Crystal Dynamics, and I read online, oh, this must mean there's a problem or something. It's quite the opposite, right? You've got this veteran team at Crystal Dynamics. It's a big AAA team with over 100 people that becomes available. Of course, we want to work with them, particularly if they've made a game like that before. And that's how we've done an awful lot of work. If you think about Age of Empires 4, which just launched last fall, that was made in partnership with Relic Studios up in Vancouver. Great partnership. And even something like Flight Simulator, we worked with a studio in France called Asobo. And that kind of co-development, when you're working out with people like Certain Affinity, Iron Galaxy, Blackbird, all those studios are so key to the products that we make. That, though, also means some complexity where if one of these studios has problems, it then impacts the schedule. So the days are gone when you can sort of go, everybody round up the team in the cafeteria. I want to tell everybody you work harder this Wednesday. That's long gone. It's gotten a lot more complicated than that. So there you go. It sounds like it is going well. I mean, they're probably not going to come out and say anything if it is going bad. They'll probably just be silent on it and not try to raise these unrealistic expectations. At least that's what most people would hope. But I think Perfect Dark, like I said, is a huge game for Xbox, and I'm excited for them to show it off. I'm hoping that they do show it off at this next upcoming Xbox and Bethesda showcase in 2023, and we'll really see more about it. It definitely looks like it's going to be a different direction from the previous games with the style that they've shown off in the official trailer. And I believe that they are actually going for a third-person view for Perfect Dark, which would be a change. But I mean, you think about it and you think about Tomb Raider third-person, so it could still turn into something pretty great. But that's one of these third-person action narrative style games that Xbox needs to deliver on as a part of their entire portfolio. I'm not saying I want them at all to follow along the lines of PlayStation and it be pretty much their only thing within the portfolio. I absolutely love Xbox's totality of the portfolio of the multiplayer games and the co-op games and all the stuff that they have within there, but they have to have one, maybe two really big hitting games that are similar to what PlayStation has. So when people are looking at that comparison, they can say, hey, Xbox has that same quality of cinematic style of video game that PlayStation has. And sticking on the Embracer Group, we have some information about the Volition. The Volition, as we know, created the reboot of Saints Row. It really turned a lot of people off, especially because of the characters. And I personally didn't think too much of the characters. I didn't enjoy them that much, but I found that the gameplay was a ton of fun. I think I have like over 50 hours in Saints Row, just sitting back, not really thinking about anything and just blowing shit up. Like, that's why I enjoy those games. I'm not really that into the character development or the story within those games. And I thought they did a decent job of that. They actually just put out a brand new November patch, which apparently makes the game run a lot better, which I'm going to definitely check out. But it got a lot of backlash, and it seems like that backlash really affected Saints Row, as it didn't do as well as they expected. And because of that, Embracer announced here that the Volition will become a part of Gearbox after a disappointing reception to Saints Row. So the Embracer CEO Lars Wingfors says here, the reception of Saints Row did not meet the full expectations and left the fan base partially polarized, which definitely it did, in a variety of reasons. There was people who had the argument that they just didn't like the characters, it was going woke or whatever. And then there was the people who just didn't like the direction of the actual gameplay or the actual art style, that everything that they were going for. There were people that didn't like the fact that there were so many crazy bugs in it from the start. Although through my playthrough of Saints Row, I honestly didn't experience as many bugs, or not as few bugs, but not nearly as many bugs as people were experiencing. Nothing that really broke the game for me. I'm not sure what that was about. Maybe it was just worse for others, but it was definitely a polarizing fan base with Saints Row, which makes sense as to why it didn't meet expectations. He continues on here to say, the game development studio Volition has been working hard to improve the player experience, and that financially, Saints Row has performed in line with management expectations in the quarter, but going forward, Volition will transition to become part of Gearbox, which has all the tools, including an experienced management team in the US, to create future success at Volition. This is the first internal group transfer where we transfer a major studio between operative groups, but it is not necessarily the last. And this isn't the first time that we've seen a disappointment in terms of Wingfors' thoughts on this game. He previously mentioned that he actually wanted a better reception for this game, saying, personally, I'd hoped for a greater reception to the game. It's been very polarizing. There are a lot of things that could be said in detail around it, but I'm with one hand happy to see lots of gamers and fans happy, and at the same time, I'm a bit sad to also see fans not happy. So it's difficult. So I mean, there you have it. I mean, it was a polarizing game. I thought it was fun. I would hope that going forward, they are going to continue to make Saints Row, whether that is going back more to the older style in terms of the characters. I mean, if I had to choose, I definitely would rather them revert back to the older style of characters that they had in the previous games. Although, like I said, I'm not a big follower of the story and characters within these games, but I definitely thought the current Saints Row characters were just quite boring in everything that they had in their stories and just their personalities. It wasn't great, but again, I hope that they bring out a Saints Row 2, I guess, with this new remake, and maybe they do some introductions, bringing back some of the older stuff. Video games, as a lot of them try to make these big jumping changes, but if you follow it at all, gamers are pretty resistant to big sweeping changes for IPs that have delivered what they have wanted over multiple iterations. And it's always a risk. And it seems like Saints Row, it didn't fully pay off, and we'll see what this means. If this means that there will ever be another Saints Row, or if this is the last one to ever be released. But that's it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on Crystal Dynamics, Perfect Dark, how the development is going, and what do you think about Volition being transferred to Gearbox? And do you think there will be another Saints Row after what has happened with the most recent release? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here and you liked what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.